Welcome back to the day 3 of the 100 Days of Hell with Python Algo Trading. Today we will be starting with one of the most important topic, that is Python strings. As I always say, fundamentals should be very strong because devil in the details. That was quoted 100 years ago by the Friedrich Wilhelm. So first we understand what are Python strings. So Python strings are the sequence of Unicode characters. What do you mean by Unicode? So let me quickly explain. So the earlier languages used ASCII characters. Okay. But Python uses Unicode, correct? What is the exact difference between ASCII characters and Unicode? As both the ASCII and Unicode are the character encoding standards, but they differ significantly in terms of their scope, functionality, and capacity. So let's quickly understand that. Okay, so ASCII standards can hold only up to 128 characters, whereas Unicode characters can hold a significantly large number of characters, which is 143,000. ASCII standards are limited to English alphabets and digits and some control and special characters. Okay, so some control and special characters. Whereas Unicode is a comprehensive encoding standards designed to support the characters from all the writing systems in the world, as well as symbols, emojis, and various control characters. So we can say all writing systems, emojis, and so many special characters. Okay. When it comes to the encoding size, it uses 7 characters per bits, whereas Unicode has variable sizes and multiple encoding forms like UTF-8, 16, and 32, which can be 1 to 4 bytes per character. And then we can say ASCII was historically used for basic text representation in English, and Unicode was universally accepted for modern text processing, supporting multiple languages and symbols. Now we will learn various things on Python strings, like how to create a string, how to edit a string, how to delete a string, and there are multiple operations, functions of strings. So we'll learn all those one by one. Then we will quickly move to the screen and we'll code some examples. Okay. So first of all, we have how to create strings. First is creating strings. We can create strings with single quotes, double quotes, or triple quotes, right? In single quotes, like we want to create a strategy name. So what we can do, we can just write strategy name, right? It's underscore. And the same we can achieve with double quotes also. So strategy name, that also, right? And when we have multiple line of strings, right? So how we can write that? So what we will do, we will write like hello algo traders, we are here to learn algo trading, correct? And then you will close the triple quotes. So these are the various ways. And again, like why we need to use these two different type of notations, like single quote and double quote. So for example, when we have something like, let's say we are writing a string like it's a string, right? So now we know that we have a single quote outside, correct? But inside also for its we have one quote, right? One single quote. So the Python will get confused and it might select only this part, right? So in those cases, when we have a single quote already inside the string, then we have to use a double quotes, right? So in that case, you can use the double strings. So that's a basic difference. So now what I'm doing, I will quickly explain you this. Then we will move to the coding part. So second, we have accessing strings, right? Accessing strings. So for example, we have a string and which is like moving crossovers strategy. Moving crossover strategy, right? So here if you think, then we can say that this m is at the index of 0, correct? And this is at the last. So now we don't know what is the index, but we know that it is at the last. So in Python, when you have a large string, so you can just simply say that the last character will be at the -1 index. So you can blindly say the first will be 0 and last will be -1. That is the indexing system of the Python, correct? So let's say now you want to access the first character of a string. So what you can do, you can just write a variable name, then you give a square bracket, okay? And inside that you write the index position of that string. Here we know that we want to access this m, right? So here I will write 0. So when I write this syntax, I will get the m. I will get the m as the out. And similarly, if I write as -1, if I write -1, then I will get the last character, which is s, correct? So this is called the positive indexing when we are going from left to right, and when we are going from right to left, it is known as the negative indexing, right? And this is how we can access the characters. Similarly, if you want to access O, then you will write here 1. For V, you will write here 2, correct? And similarly, when you write -1, you will get the S, and if you want to access R, you will write -2. For E, -3, V, -4, and similarly it goes up to here. So this is the positive and negative indexing. Now we go to another important concept, that is slicing, correct? So as we know, if I just write like print s, I will get this whole string, correct? And if I write like s and in square bracket, when I give the index position, I will get the single index. But what if when I want more than one characters, right? What if I want the whole string? What if I want the reverse of that string? What if I want only 3 characters of the string? But what if when I want, let's say, the initial 3 characters, the last 3 characters? So in that case, we have to apply the slicing here. So how does that work? Let me quickly remove it. So now we have this string, okay? So for slice say, I write same as and then in the square bracket I give 1 colon, correct? If I just give a colon without any values, it will output the whole string, okay? If I write 0 at the starting position and blank at the end position, still I will get the whole string. Now I know that you are started to getting the idea. So how to access a string in various ways. For example, if I want only this part, correct? So now I know that m is at the 0th index and this g. So 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, correct? It is at the 5th index. So if I want to access this particular part from the string, so what I will write here, 0 means it will 0, then this 5, right? If I write 5 here, then it will give me output up to this only, this n, correct? Because in the end position it is always -1, correct? So you have to write +1. So we know that this is at the 5th position, so we will write +1. So here we have to write 0 to 6. So when we write 0 to 6, then we will get this whole character, then we will get this whole moving part, right? We will just cover some examples, you will get more idea. Now there is another concept, that is step size. So in step size, what happens, you want the output in the steps, like you want m, then you want to skip o, then you want v, then you want to skip I, then you want n, correct? Means you want this part, but in that also you don't want these characters, correct? You only want m, I, n. So how we can achieve that? As we already know, this m is at the 0th index and this g is at the 5th index, correct? So I will write like s, then the starting index, then the last index. So we have to give +1, right? I will write like this. Then I want to give steps here, like I want to skip this one character, so I will just write 1. So it will just skip these characters, correct? And it will give me the output as m, then v, and then n. Okay, if you want to skip 2 characters, you can just give here 2. So this is how the step size works. So now let's take some example of negative indexing. So now, for example, if I want this whole string but in reverse order, so what I can do, I can simply write s, and as we know that we want the whole string, so we will just leave the starting and end positions as blank. And if we simply write this, we will get the whole string, but in the normal order. But here we want in reverse order. So what we can do, we can just mention here -1. So it will give me the whole string in reverse order. Now we move to the next part, which is editing and deleting in strings. So in editing, what happens, for example, if you want to modify this string, right, this m, so what you can do, you can simply write s at 0 index, and you can make it maybe small, correct? If you want to change this one, so what you can do, you can write the s and the index position, which is 5, and if you want to make it small, so you will write like g, correct? But this will not work. This will throw an error and you should avoid it, correct? Because now you will be learning one of the most important property of string, which is immutability, You have to remember this, that Python strings are immutable. You cannot modify them. Once they are created, they are created. Then you can only delete the whole string. You cannot modify in between the string, right? So instead of that, what you can do, if you want to delete a string, you can use the del keyword, del, and then you can write s. So it will delete the whole string, but you cannot modify a string. Now we quickly move to the screen and perform some examples. So now we quickly start the example. So first we will create a string. So how we can do that? So we'll just write a string inside a single quote or double quote. So we can write like a momentum strategy, and you can give it a identifier or variable name. So we will give it as strategy name. Okay. So when we print this strategy name, we get the results. So now if I want to access this string, so this is the first way. We just write the name of variable, it will print out the whole string. But if I just want the first character, so what can I do? So I'll just write the index position of that character. So I want to access this capital M. So I will write strategy name, then the square bracket, and then I'll mention the index position of that character. So when I hit shift enter, it gives me M. As we have already learned, if I want the last character, I'll just write -1 and it will give me the Y. And now if I want this whole momentum, okay, I think it's not correct, so I just correct it and now it's fine. So if I want this whole momentum, what we have to do, we have to count the index. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's 0 to 7, right? So if I write like this, you tell me what will be the answer. Just pause the video and write in the comment. It will test your understanding. Okay, when I hit shift enter, it gives me up to U only, because if you remember, I have explained you already, you always need to give +1 of the character you want to access. So here it is 7, but I will need to give 8 because it will not print out the last position. So when I hit shift enter, it will give me the complete momentum word. Okay, so this is the positive indexing. So if I want to access this momentum with the help of negative indexing, what I can do, I'll just count. So as we have discussed, this Y will be at -1, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, then space 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So it will be -17 up to here, right? So it will be again 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 up to 10, right? Up to 10. And when you write this, you will get moment. And again, as we discussed, we have to give +1. So -10 plus 1 will be -9. And when you do that, you will get the whole momentum. Okay. And again, if you want the whole string as reverse, you just give 2 colons as empty and then give the step size as -1, and you will get the whole string in reverse format. And now I think that you are able to understand the power of Python. With just one line of code, we are able to reverse the whole string. But in other languages, we have to write the full code, right? And then it will reverse the string. Now we perform the adding characters to the string. As we have discussed already, that strings are immutable. So you cannot add or edit a string. Once it is created, it is created. You cannot modify that. So if you want to add, then you have to create a new string, right? For example, if I want to add here something, so what I will do, I'll just write like the new strategy name. What I will do, I will just write here the variable name. Okay. And then my new character. So for example, it is latest. So for example, I have created a new strategy. I would like to give it as a new name, and then I will also have to give it a new variable name. So it will be latest. And when I hit enter and when I print this, I get the result, right? Momentum strategy latest. So here you can give a space and you will get the results. If you try to add something in between, you will not be able to, and it will throw an error, right? Let's say like this is your string, and if you want to change the value at 0, and if you try that, like let's say small m, it will throw an error that string object doesn't support item assignment because it is immutable. Okay, then we can only delete a whole string. So how we can achieve that? We can use the del character, del, and then the variable name. So when we do that, and now when I print it, it shows me name strategy is not defined, correct? Because it has been deleted. Okay, now we have the next part, which is operations on string. So now let's quickly start with the operations on string. So in this, as usual, first we will understand on the blackboard, and then we will quickly move to the Visual Studio for the coding part. Okay, so let's first see that here we have 4 type of major operations. So first are the arithmetic operations, then we have relational operations, then we have logical, loops, and membership. So in arithmetic, we only have the addition and the multiplication. Okay, in relational, all type of relational operators works on the strings, like less than, greater than, equal to, not equal to. Okay, then we have logical operations. So in that we have and, or, and not. So and, or, and not. Then loops also works on the string. And then we have the membership operations, which is like in and not in. Okay, so let's quickly understand. For example, in arithmetic, we have a string. Let's say we have a string S1 is equals to price, and S2 equals to, let's say, stop loss, right? Because that is the most important thing, right? So if I want to perform addition operation on this, which will ultimately concatenate these strings, so how I can do that? I can just write S1 plus S2. So it will give me the results as price and stop loss. Okay. This is just for the explanation purpose. We will also perform some examples, and also you can perform the multiplication. So how you can do that? For example, this is your first string, and then you are multiplying it with, let's say, 5. So what will happen? This price will be, for example, this price will be printed 5 times. Price, price, and price, and price, like this. Okay, so you can only perform the addition and the multiplication on strings. Then we have relational. So in that, all operators work. So for example, you have these two strings. Okay, and if you write like S1 is greater than S2, so you just pause the video and write down the answer. what it will be. As we have already studied that relational operators gives true or false, right? So here, when we perform this, S1 is greater than S2, then it will print out false. Why? Because here the Python comparing those strings based on ASCII standards. So like we have a dictionary. So in dictionary, whatever the words come later, it is bigger, right? So here, as we know that in alphabets, P comes before S. So P is smaller and S is greater. So that's why we are getting the value as false. So we can say that in relational operators, it is comparing as lexicographically. And then we have logical operators. It is not of that much use, but it's very interesting. And it also shows a very weird property. So how does it work? For example, we have the S1 and S2, right? And if I write S1 and S2, and then I perform AND logical operation on these two strings, right? So what will happen? It will give me an output as stop loss. Now you tell me why it happens, why it behaves like this. So in order to understand that, we have to understand another concept, that is in Python logical operators, we have two values, right? One is true and another is false. Correct? So if any string is not empty, means if there is anything in the string, whether it's 1 character, whether it's 1000 character, or whether it's 1 million character, okay, if there is anything in the string, it becomes, so I'll write here anything, right? And then it becomes as true. Correct? And if any string is empty, okay, then it becomes a false. So that's a simple idea. And now let's perform some more operations. Okay, so here, as we perform AND operation, it gives me stop loss. Why? Because it checks both the values. So first price, so price is not empty, so it is true. Correct? Then it checks S2, which is also not empty, means it is also true. So in AND operation, as we know already, that both the values has to be true, then only we get the output as true. So it will be a stop loss and it will give us the last value, which is stop loss, right? If I write like here S2 and S1, then what we will get? We will get the output as price. Okay. Then let's say we are performing an OR operation here. Okay. So in OR, so it will first check the S2. So S2 has some string and so it becomes true and it will directly give us the result as stop loss. Correct? But let's say it is empty. S2 has no value. It is empty string. Then what it will do? So it will first go and check S2. S2 is empty. Then it will again check the next, which is S1, and it will give us the output as price. Right? And if I perform AND operation here, so what will happen? Let's say the output of this will be S1 is true, right? S1 is true. Then it will check the S2, which is false because this is empty. So we will get here as the value empty. It's that simple. Okay. Then the last we have is not. So in not, what happens? Not will like apply on only one. So let's say we have S1 and here we apply the not operation. Okay. So here S1 is not empty, means it is true, right? Means it is true. And as we know that not logical operation always reverses the real output. So here it is true, so it will give us as false. Correct? And if we apply the same on S2, so S2, as we know, it is empty. So in reality, it is false. But as we apply the not operation, it will give us the value as true. So this is how the logical operations work. Okay. Then we have loops. So loops are very simple here. So for example, we have a string as S and Singapore. So in strings, we can even perform loop operation on strings. So how it will work? We can write a code like for I in S. Okay. And if I write like print I, then we will get the output as like S, I, N, and until S. So it can perform the loops also. So we will be performing some examples also quickly, and just let me explain you the last one, which is membership. So in membership, what happens? So like we have this as string. So if I write like n in S, so S is the string here, this one, right? So it will check whether capital N exists in this string or not. So here we can say that yes, N exists, correct? So it will give us the value as true. Similarly, if I write like small n in S, so we will get the value as false because it doesn't exist. So now let's quickly perform some examples, and then we will move to the next, which is the functions on strings. So now we will quickly perform all the 4 operations. So let's say we have a string as Singapore and S2 as, let's say, India. Okay, so here if I want to perform the addition operation, so what I'll do, I'll just like write S1 and S2. So it will give me Singapore and India. So if you want to make it a little bit more good looking, so what you can do, you can add some space. Okay, and here also plus. So here just give space and hit enter. Okay, here we have to remove this. Okay, now as you can see, we have a good looking Singapore India, right? You can also perform some multiplication. So how we can do that? You can just give like S1 multiplied by 5. So you will get 5 times Singapore. Okay, and you can also give here space like plus space. So this is how you can get a formatted string. Okay, then we perform some relational operations. So S1, S2. So if I write like S1 is less than S2. Okay, so if I write like S1 is less than S2, so you just pause the video and so write down the answer, because it will test your understanding and it will enhance your understanding. So just check that lexicographically, means in dictionary what comes first, S or India. And when you hit shift enter, you will get the false because I comes first. So it should be like this, and then you will get the true because S comes later, and whatever the value comes later, it becomes greater. Now we can also perform the logical operations. So let's say, let's copy and paste it here. Let's say, okay, so here if I write like S1 and S2. So again, what you do, you keep on pausing the video and write down the answer and then check your understanding. So when you hit shift enter, we get India because in AND it checks both the values. So first is true, second is also true, and then it gives us the India. And when I write over here, so it will give us Singapore, right? Because the first string itself is true, so it doesn't need to check the next value. But if I empty this, then it will check the next value, India, and it will give us the value as India. So this is how the logical operations work. And again, like you can take not also. So in not, what happens if I write like not S1? So as S1 is empty, so it is false, but we have applied the not, so it will make it as true. Correct. So we are done with logical operation. Then we move to the loops. So loops also very easy. So let's say we have the string S2. So what I can do, I can just go and like for I in S2. Okay. And when I print I, it will print the whole string separated by a line. If I write here like Singapore, then what will be the answer? You tell me. So it will print, oh, we have to make it string. It's not a variable, right? So Singapore will be printed 5 times. So this is how loops works. It's really fantastic. It's really amazing functionality. Then we have the membership operations. So membership also very easy. We can like check the conditions. So let's say if I check whether capital I in India, so whether capital I in S2, and when we hit enter, it says true. But when I make it as small I, it is also true because we have this small I. But if I write like any other value, let's say X, then it will give us the false because it doesn't exist, right? So we are done with the operations, and you perform all the tasks, all the MCQs. And if you face any issue, just feel free to let us know. We are here to help you. Okay, so let's quickly move to the functions. So functions are also very easy. What we will do, we will just copy and paste these strings, and Now we start the functions on strings, and here I have divided the functions based on their functionalities. So I have grouped them on the basis of how they works. Okay, so first set of functions is the common functions. It means these functions works on everything like strings, lists, dictionaries. So once you have a good understanding here, it will help you in the future also. So for example, we have a string as Singapore, and let's say it is S1, and S2 as India, correct? So when we apply len function, it will count the number of characters in that string. So if I apply len on S2, like len on S2, it will give us 5, correct? Similarly, if I apply on S1, then it will give us like 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. So for Singapore, we will get the value as 9. If I apply the max, so when we apply the max function, we will get the biggest value based on the ASCII characters, as we have already learned in previous section. So it will compare lexicographically, and so here when we apply, we will get the answer as S, because that is the last. I guess I am correct. If not, then you can just go and check on your system, you will get the answer. So similarly for the min function, you will get the answer as A, right? Because it comes the first. Then we have sorted. So in sorted, so as we have these two strings, so first of all what we will do, so we will make it as a one string. So let's say F friends equals to S1, then we will give some space plus S2, correct? So we will get, so what we will get, as you already know, we will get a string that is Singapore space India, correct? So now we apply all these functions on variable F, which is Singapore space India. So if I apply len here, so what it will do, so it will calculate the number of characters including the space, and it will give us the results. So what we will get when we apply the len function on the F, so F is equals to S1 plus S2, which is equal to Singapore space India. So if I apply len F, then I get the value as like 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 plus 10 space, then 12, 14 and 15. So I'll get the result as 15. Okay, then if I apply max, so in max what happens, for example, I apply like max on F, so then it will compare that string based on the ASCII standards, which is lexicographically, that we have already studied. So in that we can see that here we will get the result as S, right? Because S comes last in alphabets, so we will get the result as S. And when we apply the min, so when we apply like min on F, so we will get the result as space. So we'll get a empty string, correct? And when we apply sorted, okay, so sorted on F, so what we will get a list. So we will get a list, and all these characters will be splitted, and it will be sorted based on the ASCII character. So for example, this space will come first, so it will like give us result like this, then comma, and then we will get the capital. Okay, so as all are capital, so no issue. So then we will get A here, correct, based on the ASCII standards. Then we can just test on the screen. Just wait for a few minutes and I'll show you how. Let's first quickly cover all the functions. Okay, now we move to the next set of functions, which are capitalized, title, upper, lower, and swap case. So here it's also very simple. In capitalize, it will capitalize the first character. So for example, we have this string as like S3 as like this small India. Okay, and when I apply the capitalize here, so it will give me the output as capital I and then the rest. So it will just capitalize the first character. Okay, then in title we have bigger string like Singapore plus India, then it will just capitalize the first character of every word like Singapore space India. So what it will do, it will capitalize S and I. Okay, then we have upper. So in upper, you know that it will completely capitalize the whole word. Okay, like we have a word with small I and dia, then it will reverse that. It will give us all the values as capital. Similarly in the lower, it will make all the characters as small letters. Okay, then we have swap case. So in swap case, whatever the character is, whether it's upper, whether it's lower, it will just reverse that. So it will swap from upper to lower and lower to upper. Then we have count. So Count, what it does, so it just counts the number of times any character in a single string. For example, we have a string as S1 India. So for example, if I apply count here, S1 dot count, and here let's say I say capital I, so it will give me the value as 1 because I is only one time in the India. And if I give here small n, then also we'll get the value as 1. It will count the number of times that character is in that string. Then we have find. So find will find that particular character and it will give us the index position. Similarly, that same goes for index, but in index when the value is not there, it will give us an error. We will check shortly in the example. Then we have ends with and starts with. So if I write like S1 ends with, for example, A, small a, right? So we will get the value as true. If I write here capital A, then we will get the value as false. It is that simple. And same goes with starts with. If any word is starting with that particular character, then it will give us the true and false based on that condition. So in format, what happens? For example, I have two strings S1 and S2. S1 is equals to Singapore, S2 equals to India. For example, if I want to print out like print, I will say hello, this is Kuldeep and I am from, and then I will give a placeholder for a function. Okay, and then I can write currently I am working in, then again I can give a placeholder for a function. Then I can close this print statement. So here, as this is a multi-line string, so what you can do, you can give it triple quotes and then you can close this print function. Okay. So for format, you have to write a dot here next to this string dot. Then you can write format. Okay. Here you can pass your values. So here S2 and S1. Okay. So because of that mistake, we are able to explore one more functionality of this format. So here we can say that order matters. So whatever the order you mention here, it will be printed out like that only. And again, here also you can mention the index number. If you mention here 1 and here 0, so what will happen? So here we know that S2 is 0 and S1 is 1. So here it will be printed out as S1. So it will be like, hello, this is Kuldeep and I am from. S1 is Singapore and currently I'm working in India. Okay, so we can say order matters here. Then we have is elnum, is alpha, is digit, is identifier. In elnum, what happens? It checks whether it's alphanumeric value, and in is alpha, it checks whether it is an alphabet. In digit, it checks just for the digit, and in identifier, it checks for a correct identifier. Like it should not start with any other special character except the underscore. We will just test these functions on the code also. So just wait a minute. We are just left with 3 functions, and now we have split. So split, what it does, it split any character or any word into a list, and it can also split based on the character you mentioned. Like, so by default, if you apply split on any string, it will just split based on the spaces. So for example, we have a string like that, hello, this is Kuldeep and currently I'm working in Singapore. So it will split based on these spaces and it will give me a list, and all those words inside the string will be given as separate indexes. Then join is inverse of the split. Okay, and replace, we can replace a character, and in strip is very, very important and you will be using it a lot. So how it works, for example, we have a string Kuldeep. Okay, and by mistake, for any kind of reason, there was some space added in my string. So like Kuldeep becomes like this. Okay, so the real value is this and this all is space. So what it will do, when we apply strip on this, it will remove all the trailing spaces, whether it's in front or back. It will remove all the trailing spaces and it will give us a clean value. Sometimes it's very useful while user is inputting a value and you want to store that value in the database. So sometimes what happens, if the user's keyboard is not working fine, then it might happen that they enter some unnecessary value in that, and so it might happen that they are inputting some unnecessary value and we don't want to store that value in the database. So we just want to store the clean value. So here you can use the strip function. Okay, now let's quickly move to the screen and perform some examples. So So let's quickly start the example. So as we have S1 as, you can say, Singapore, then S2 is equals to, and S2 is equals to India. Okay, so if I want to apply the len function, so what I can do, I can apply len on S1, and when we hit shift enter, we get the value as 9. And when I apply same on S2, we get 5, correct? So now we have the max. So when we apply max on, let's say, when we apply max on S1, we will get the value as R, because in ASCII characters, let me show you quickly how it works. So let me open the Google, and in Google ASCII table, and okay, so for example, here you can see that we have this ASCII table. In this, first the decimal values hold the priority, then we have the hex values, and then we have the characters. So in characters also, first the capital characters. So in characters also, first we have the capital and then the small. So whatever that comes last, it is bigger. You can also have some look and you can perform some operations and you will be good to go. Okay, so that's why here when we apply the max on S1, this R comes the last, right? Because that is a small. Then again, when we apply minimum on this, so in minimum, it will give us the smallest value based on the ASCII characters. So when you hit shift enter, so you get the value as capital S, right? Then in sorted, it will sort the values and give us a list. So you can see based on the ASCII characters, it has sorted and given us a list. So it's very useful a lot of times. Then we move to the next. So we will just copy and paste these here, and here it's already capitalized. So we'll make it smaller first, and okay. So let's say now I'm applying capitalize on S1. So it will just give me the value with only the first letter capitalized, right? And when I apply the title, so title, what it does, for example, we have combined this S1. We have combined this S1 with S2, okay, and when we apply the title on the F, so what will happen? F dot title. So what it will do, as we have learned already, that it will capitalize the first. So it will capitalize the first character of each word, okay. Then uppercase all the letters. So you can see. Then the lowercase all the letters. Singapore, India. So in swap case, what will happen? It will swap all the values. It's like understood, right? So you can see here that these all values were smaller, so it has made them capital. Let's make it like this. It's capital, and then it's also capital. When I hit shift enter, so now when I apply the swap case, you can see the results. So this is how it works. And now we move to the count and find. So here I can take this also, maybe useful. Okay, now we have this. When I hit shift enter, now we apply the count on this. So f dot count. Okay, we have to give any character here, right? So let's say I give, okay, let me first print the value of f also here, so it's better for your understanding. So here we know that the f is equals to Singapore space India, and when I check here that how many times the I comes in this sentence, it will show us that only 2 times, because one is this I and second is this I, right? The small I only. And similarly, you can check for capital I also. When you hit shift enter, it's only 1 time, right? And if you apply any other value, then you get 0, right? Then we have the next function as find. It's also similar. It will give us the index position of that character. So when you hit shift enter, and when that character is not existing in that word, it will give us -1. And if it is existing, then it will give the first occurrence. So here you can see that I comes at the index position 1, because S is 0 and I is 1. And now we have index. So basically find and index are same. They works exactly the same, except for one thing. That is, if that character is not existing, then it will not throw any error. But in index, if that value is existing, then it's fine. It's same like find. But if that value is not existing, it will give us an error. So when I check for capital S, it gives me 0. But if I apply here the small s, it throws an error because that's substring not found in that particular string. Now we have the ends with and starts with. So we just copy and paste. Same thing here. And let's check. So f dot ends with. So okay, let's first print this. Okay. Let's print f. Let's print f and now check that whether f ends with what is the last character? A. So we check whether f ends with a, that is true. And if I change the value to any other character, let's say s, then it will give us the false because this string doesn't ends with the s. Okay, same you can check with starts with. So if the Singapore is starting with capital S, but if you give small s, it will give us the false value. But if you make it capital S, it gives us the true value. Okay, so this is how it works. So now we move to the next function, which is format. So format is very useful. You will be using it a lot. So how does this work? For example, if I want to print like print hello world, this is Kuldeep and I am from. Okay, so here I will give a placeholder for a function. Okay, then what I will write, hello world, this is Kuldeep and I am from placeholder, and currently I am working in, again, a placeholder. Okay, now you have to apply here the format function. Okay, so format, then here you have to provide some parameters. So as we know that Singapore is S1 and India is S2. So what I can do, I can give here first the S1 and then S2. First the S1, then S2. Okay, and let me make it a little bit smaller. Now it's fine, I guess. So now when I hit shift enter, I get the value as hello world, this is Kuldeep and I am from Singapore and currently I am working in India. So here we have made a mistake. Why? Because I am from India and currently I'm working in Singapore. So what you can do, you can just make some changes here or here. You have like multiple options. So that's the benefit of format. So here we know that S1 is equals to Singapore and S2 equals to India. And S1 is at the index position 0 and S2 at the index position 1. But what I want here India, which is S2. So what I can do, I can make it 1 and here 0. And when I hit shift enter, I get the right value. That is, I am from India and currently I am working in Singapore. So what you understood now, that order matters in format function. Okay. Otherwise, what could you have done? You could have just changed these, like you could have just changed this. Okay, when you hit shift enter, still we get the same desired output. So this is how powerful the format function is. You can use it in multiple ways. Okay, now we move to the next function, which is alnum. So what we will do, we will again paste the values here. Okay, so these 4 functions is alnum, is alpha, is digit, or is identifier. So is alnum checks whether this string is alphanumeric, and this is alpha check whether it's alphabetic, or is digit checks whether this is a digit, and is identifier checks whether this is a correct identifier, right? So let's quickly take an example. First we check for the S1 and we apply is. Okay, let's make it 1 2 3. Okay, so and percentage. So S1 is alphanumeric, S2 is alphabets only, and S3 we give a 1 2 3. Okay, so let's quickly make this S1 as alphanumeric. So we'll just add 1 2 3 here, or when we hit shift enter, and now we check whether S1 is alphanumeric. So L, okay, is alnum, right? Is alnum. and when you hit enter, it is true, right? Now we check for the S2 whether it is alpha. When you hit shift enter, it gives us true. But if you check this, that if it is digit, then it will give us false because it is not digit. And now you can check for S3. So in S3 is only digit, so you check here S3 is digit, and when we hit shift enter, yes it is. And if I check it as is alpha, and when I hit shift enter, it gives me the false value. So this is how you can use these functions, useful sometimes. Then we have split and join. So I'll quickly copy and paste these here. Okay, so first let's check for, I'll copy and paste this also here, F, S1, S2, and let's add it here also. Okay, S3 also. So when I hit shift enter and when I print F, we get the value as Singapore, India 123. Okay, so now let's apply the split function here. So F dot split, and when I hit shift enter, I get a list with the sentence splitted based on the space. Okay, so it just detect the space and then it's make it a separate item in a list. So we get a list, right? The interesting thing about this function that you can mention anything here. Like if you mention that I want to split a string based on I. So if I write I, then it will find I and it will split from that character. So you can see here it was S, it has removed S and it has splitted. Then again, here it was I. So one list item is this, second is until this, and third is until this. So this is how we can use that. And now let's take an example for join. So let's say we have a list which contains these items and I want a single string. So what I can do, I can just write like space dot join, and I can give this list inside that function. So like this. So you can see that we have joined that list and this is the output of that. So like you can perform many operations on this. Make sure that you are practicing the MCQs and also the project on each and every session. So by the end of this course, you will be having a set of 100 mini projects. And you think that if you follow along with me, then how much powerful you will be after 100 days. Okay, now we quickly move to the next function, which is replace. So here what you can do. So first you can print out this, and now let's say you want to replace 1 2 3. So what you can do, you can write 1 2 3, okay, and then give a comma, and here you write a string. For example, Singapore, India are really close friends. When you hit shift enter, you get the output that this 1 2 3 has been replaced with this string, are really close friends. That's how simple it is. Now we move to the next part, which is strip. For example, here by mistake my keyboard was not working fine and I have given some spaces, okay, before Singapore and after Singapore. And India also same, like this. Okay, and 1 2 3 also like same, I have given a lot of spaces. Okay, and when I hit shift enter, I get the value like this. You can see, right, the space, again a lot of space. But in real life, when you are taking inputs from user, so many times the user makes mistakes, but you don't want to include those spaces in your database. So what you can do, you can quickly apply strip function on those inputs, then you can get a clean input and then you can store that in your database. So what we can do, we can just apply s1 dot strip. Okay, when you hit shift enter, you get a clean Singapore, right? Similarly, it goes for these also, s2 and s3. So now we are done with the strings, and in my opinion, I have given my best. Now it's your turn. It's your responsibility to go and perform all the multiple choice questions. And then you have to complete all the tasks and then just go for the project. Initially, you will take a little bit time, but as we go further, day by day, you will improve and you will see that you are able to program very easily. Trust me. Okay, so with that being said, I'll see you in the next video. Until then, bye bye, take care, have a nice day.